The Ford Mustang. It's more than just a car. It's a piece of the American soul, an icon etched in steel and cultural memory. For over 60 years, its galloping horse emblem has represented freedom, power, and the open road. We know its silhouette, we know its roar, and we think we know its story. But what if I told you that the legendary car that rolled off the assembly line in 1964 was never Ford's original vision? What if I told you it was Plan B, or maybe even Plan C? That buried deep within the secret archives of Dearborn, Michigan, lies a graveyard of phantom Mustangs, brilliant, bizarre, and sometimes terrifying prototypes that were ordered to be forgotten. These aren't just sketches. These were real, running, driving cars, each with a story of what could have been. They are the ghosts in Ford's machine, and today, we're going to bring them back into the light. From an exotic mid-engine Ferrari fighter to a four-door family sedan, these are the 13 most shocking Mustang secrets that Ford would rather you never knew. Fact 1. The Genesis, a mid-engine American Ferrari. Let's start at the very beginning, with the car that lit the spark. Before the Mustang was a pony car, it was envisioned as something far more exotic. In 1962, Ford unveiled the Mustang 1, and it was a bombshell. This was a tiny, two-seat, open-top roadster with the engine behind the driver. Yes, a mid-engine Ford, built with the DNA of a European race car. It was impossibly futuristic, weighing a mere 1,500 pounds and powered by a high-revving, German-built V4 engine. It only produced 90 horsepower, but in a car that light, it was a scalpel on the racetrack. The legendary Dan Gurney himself thrashed it around Watkins Glen, stunning the press and the public. Ford's executives were in love. This was it, a car to challenge the best of Europe. But then, the dream met a harsh reality. The accountants, the bean counters, ran the numbers and delivered a death sentence. To turn a profit, this little two-seater would need a sticker price of around $6,000. In today's money, that's over $60,000 for a tiny Ford with a four-cylinder engine. Internal documents showed they came terrifyingly close to greenlighting it before a senior executive finally asked the fatal question, who is going to pay Porsche prices for a Ford? The project was killed overnight. It was a spectacular failure, but a necessary one. Without the death of this first dream, the Mustang we know and love would never have been born. Fact 2. The Cougar Connection, a Mustang by any other name. Imagine walking into a Ford dealership in 1964 and asking to see the new Ford Cougar. It sounds strange, but for months, that was the car's official name. Ford was all in on the Cougar identity. They had commissioned clay models, intricate design studies, and even printed promotional materials bearing the name. The design cues were obvious. The front grille featured a stylized prowling cat, and the steering wheel hubs were adorned with little feline emblems. Trademarks were being filed. The branding was locked. But then, something strange happened in the focus groups. As Ford's marketing team showed the car to potential buyers, they heard the same feedback again and again. People didn't see a cat, they saw a horse. They talked about the long, powerful hood, the muscular haunches, and the way it seemed to gallop down the road. The final nail in the Cougar's coffin came during a dealer preview in early 1963. A sharp-eyed zone manager from Texas took one long look at the prototype and declared, "That thing runs like a wild Mustang." A hush fell over the room. The name was perfect. Within a week, every single Cougar badge was stripped from the design studio. But Ford is never wasteful. 5 years later, they dusted off the name and the cat logo for a new car built on the very same platform, the Mercury Cougar. Fact 3. The Panic Button, the four-door family Mustang. Ford will never officially acknowledge this car existed, but the photographic evidence is undeniable. In late 1963, with millions of dollars on the line and no guarantee of success, Ford's executives got nervous. The compact car market was a battlefield. To hedge their bets, they secretly commissioned a Plan B Mustang, a proper four-door family sedan. Codenamed T5B, only 3 of these automotive chimeras were ever built. It wasn't just a stretched two-door, it was a complete re-engineering of the car's proportions. They essentially grafted the doors from a Ford Falcon onto a modified Mustang body, stretching the wheelbase to accommodate them. The result was unsettling. It had the aggressive face of a Mustang, but the practical, mundane body of a family hauler. It looked confused, like an athlete forced to wear a business suit that was 2 sizes too big. The idea was simple. If the sporty two-door Mustang flopped, they could quickly pivot and market this as a stylish, practical sedan. Thankfully, the Mustang was a runaway success from day one, and the four-door prototypes were no longer needed. They were quietly destroyed in 1965, erased from the official history but surviving in a few painful-to-look at archival photos. Fact 4. The Italian supermodel, the original fastback. The 1965 Mustang Fastback is one of the most beautiful designs in automotive history, but it was a compromise. The original prototype, a running and driving car from early 1963, was even more stunning. It was lower, sleeker, and more radical, with a severely raked rear window that looked like it was pinned by an Italian design house, not a team in Dearborn. It was a showstopper, but it had a fatal flaw. It was completely impractical. The rear headroom was non-existent. Anyone over 5.5 feet tall would be intimately familiar with the headliner. The massive rear glass acted like a magnifying glass in the sun, turning the back seat into a sweltering greenhouse. And the trunk? You'd be lucky to fit a briefcase. Ford's engineers spent months in a frustrating battle against physics. They raised the roofline by a few crucial inches. They changed the angle of the glass. They added ventilation. By the time they were finished, they had created the brilliant 1965 Fastback we know today. But the original, purer design was lost. That first prototype, a vision of what could have been, was destroyed in 1964, leaving behind only a handful of photos as proof of the Mustang that was simply too beautiful to build. Fact 5. The shooting brake. The Grand Tourer America didn't understand. Before the Fastback, Ford's European design studios pitched an even more audacious idea: a Mustang shooting brake. For those unfamiliar, a shooting brake is a fusion of a two-door sports car and a station wagon, combining sleek style with surprising utility. The prototype they built was gorgeous. It had the Mustang's iconic long hood and sporty stance, but the roofline flowed seamlessly into a practical rear hatch. This was the perfect Grand Tour, a car you could load up with luggage for a weekend getaway without sacrificing an ounce of style. It looked exotic, expensive, and sophisticated. But when Ford showed it to American focus groups, the reaction was utter confusion. Was it a sports car? A station wagon? Why only two doors? The marketing department was equally stumped. There was no market segment for it, no competitor to compare it against. The idea was reluctantly shelved, but here's the incredible twist. The market research from that failed prototype revealed a strong interest in a Mustang-based utility vehicle. That research sat in a filing cabinet, gathering dust for nearly 40 years until it was rediscovered during the development of a certain all-electric SUV. That's right, the seeds of the Mustang Mach-E were sown by a beautiful failure in 1963. Fact 6. The secret supercharged heart. While the public saw Mustang prototypes with tame 6 cylinders and modest V8s, a secret team of engineers was building a monster. Deep inside Ford's development labs, they took the 260 Windsor V8 and gave it a secret weapon, a McCulloch centrifugal supercharger. This wasn't just a bolt-on kit. They rebuilt the engine from the ground up with a forged crankshaft, heavy-duty pistons, and a custom camshaft. The result was an astonishing 320 horsepower. In 1963, that was supercar territory. They dropped this beast into a prototype designated XM3, reinforcing the chassis and borrowing a heavy-duty 4-speed manual from the full-size Galaxy. The car's performance was terrifyingly fast. 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds, a quarter mile in 13.8. These are respectable numbers today. In 1963, they were absolutely mind-bending. So why was it canceled? In a word, lawyers. Ford's insurance actuaries took one look at the data and nearly had a collective heart attack. The thought of marketing a 300-plus horsepower rocket to young buyers sent visions of lawsuits dancing in their heads. The project was killed so completely that Ford ordered not just the car, but all the development engines and even the blueprints to be shredded. A 40-year wait would follow before a supercharger would ever again grace a Mustang from the factory. Fact 7. The featherweight fighter, the all-aluminum Mustang. The Mustang's biggest engineering challenge was its humble origins. It was based on the simple, steel-bodied Ford Falcon. To get sports car performance, engineers had two options: add more power or subtract weight. In late 1963, a special project explored the radical second option, an all-aluminum Mustang. And we mean all aluminum. The doors, the fenders, the roof, the floor, the entire unibody was crafted from the lightweight metal. The results were staggering. The aluminum prototype was 400 pounds lighter than its steel counterpart. That's like evicting 2 adult passengers permanently. Every aspect of its performance was transformed. It accelerated faster, stopped shorter, handled with a newfound agility, and was even more fuel efficient. The project was a technical masterpiece. It proved an aluminum body was not only feasible, but superior. So why are you not driving an aluminum classic Mustang today? The same old story: money. The exotic material would have added $1,200 to the car's price, launching it from an affordable sports car into Corvette territory and destroying its core mission. The single aluminum prototype was tested for 6 months, and then, in a final, cruel twist of irony, it was literally recycled. The body was melted down and turned into beer cans. Fact 8. The Gull Wing Anomaly. In a moment of pure, unadulterated 1,960 seconds futurism, someone at Ford asked, "What if we gave the Mustang gull-wing doors?" It was an idea born from the space race, a way to make the Mustang look as exotic as a Mercedes-Benz 300 SL. And they didn't just talk about it, they actually built one. The engineering was beautiful. The doors were counterbalanced with gas struts, opening with an effortless, dramatic sweep towards the sky. The car looked like it was about to take flight. But the reality was a complete nightmare. The roof had to be massively reinforced with heavy steel, adding weight at the worst possible place. The doors required a huge amount of side clearance, making parking in a normal garage or using a drive-through impossible. The real deal-breaker, however, was safety. Ford's engineers quickly realized that in a rollover accident, the doors would be pinned shut, trapping the occupants inside. It was a death trap. After just 1 month, the beautiful but fatally flawed gull-wing prototype had its exotic doors removed and conventional ones welded in their place. The idea was never, ever mentioned again. Fact 9. The turbine-powered jet on wheels. The 1,960 seconds were a time of wild technological optimism, and in the automotive world, the future was spelled Turbine. With Chrysler generating massive buzz for its turbine car program, Ford couldn't afford to be left behind. Their testbed for this jet-age technology, a Mustang prototype, they fitted it with a modified helicopter turbine engine. At idle, it was eerily quiet, emitting just a faint whistle. But when the driver hit the throttle, it unleashed the deafening roar of a jet aircraft. The power delivery was bizarre, smooth, constant thrust with no gears to shift. The problems, however, were monumental. Fuel economy was a catastrophic 6 miles per gallon. The exhaust was so hot it could literally melt the asphalt in a parking lot, and the throttle lag was measured in whole seconds. You'd press the pedal, count to 3, and then the car would surge forward. Ultimately, the cost of a single turbine engine was more than the price of an entire Mustang. After 6 months of testing, the single prototype was retired. The engine was sent back to the helicopter company, and the Mustang's body was sent to the crusher, a fascinating footnote from a future that never arrived. Fact 10. The four-wheel steering enigma. This sounds like pure science fiction, but in 1963, Ford built and tested a Mustang with four-wheel steering. Decades before it became a high-tech feature on modern supercars, Ford created a purely mechanical system of complex linkages and gears that could steer the rear wheels. The system was ingenious. At low speeds, the rear wheels turned opposite to the front, allowing the car to pivot and make parking almost effortless. At high speeds, they turned in the same direction as the front, making lane changes incredibly stable and smooth. Test drivers were amazed by its agility once they adapted to the strange sensation. But the drawbacks were terrifying. The complex mechanicals hung underneath the car, exposed to rocks, salt, and potential damage. It added over 100 pounds of weight. And the most frightening part? If a single linkage broke, the rear wheels could steer on their own, a scenario that would be almost impossible to control. Combined with a projected cost of an extra $1,000, the feature was deemed too complex, too expensive, and too risky. The one-of-a-kind prototype was converted back to a standard Mustang, its technological secret buried for decades. Fact 11. The V4 engine that nearly crippled the legend. We've seen the wild performance engines Ford considered, but they also came dangerously close to going in the opposite direction. To hit a magical sub-$2,000 price point, Ford almost launched the base model Mustang with a tiny 1.2-liter V4 engine imported from Ford of Germany. This wasn't a smooth inline-4, it was a rough, agricultural V4 that produced a pathetic 60 horsepower. It sounded, by all accounts, like an angry sewing machine and vibrated so badly at idle it could loosen your fillings. Engineers were horrified. The car had barely enough power to merge onto a highway, and only then with a strong tailwind. But the marketing department was in love with the price. A Mustang for $1,995 would have been a sensation. For months, prototypes with this dismal engine were driven around Dearborn. They were miserable to drive, but they were cheap. The final decision came down to a single question. Did Ford want to launch a groundbreaking American sports car or a cheap economy car with a weird German engine? Thankfully, they chose image over price. The V4 was dropped, the inline-6 became the base engine, and the Mustang was saved from a legacy of 60 horsepower embarrassment. Fact 12. The hidden racing program. Before the public even saw the first production Mustang, Ford's competition department was secretly building monsters. These weren't just tuned-up street cars, they were purpose-built racing prototypes that just happened to wear a Mustang-shaped shell. Starting in mid-1963, they built 5 of these beasts. They had lightweight fiberglass body panels, full roll cages, and sophisticated adjustable racing suspensions. But the true secret was under the hood. The most extreme prototype was fitted with a 427 side-oiler V8, the same fire-breathing engine that powered Ford's NASCAR entries, producing well over 450 horsepower. In a car weighing only 2,400 pounds, the result was apocalyptic. These prototypes were the secret testbeds that led to the legendary Shelby GT 350. The great Carroll Shelby himself drove them, famously saying, "It's trying to kill me, but in a good way." These cars proved the Mustang platform could handle immense power. But they were so violent that one crashed hard enough to scatter engine parts over 100 yards. Though Ford officially denies they ever existed, these secret racers were the true fathers of every performance Mustang that followed. Fact 13. The supercar that Ford erased from history. And finally, we come to the one. The prototype so radical, so advanced, and so mind-bogglingly expensive that its existence could have bankrupted the entire Mustang program. This is the car Ford's racing division truly wanted to build. This is the Mustang that was designed to kill Ferraris on their home turf. It began not with a Falcon platform, but with a hand-built aluminum space frame chassis. The suspension was pure Formula One technology with inboard disc brakes. The body wasn't steel or even aluminum, it was made of carbon fiber, a material so exotic in 1963 that even NASA was just learning how to use it. But the heart of this machine was the real showstopper. Ford's experimental engine division created a one-of-a-kind 3-liter V12. With twin overhead cams and a symphony of Weber carburetors, it screamed to 9,000 revolutions per minute and produced 350 horsepower. The complete car weighed just 2,100 pounds. Its projected 0 to 60 time was under 4 seconds, with a top speed over 170 miles per hour. It was a world-class supercar. The problem? The prototype cost over $200,000 to build, the equivalent of over $2 million today. For one car, when Ford's executives saw the bill, they nearly canceled the entire Mustang brand on the spot. The car ran only once, setting a lap record at Ford's test track that stood for years. Then, it was locked away and eventually destroyed. No photos are known to exist. Ford denies it was ever built. But for the few engineers and test drivers who witnessed it, it was proof that sometimes the greatest Mustang of all is the one that never was. From brilliant engineering that was decades ahead of its time to bizarre ideas that thankfully never saw the light of day, every one of these secret prototypes played a part in shaping the icon we cherish today. They are a testament to the creativity, ambition, and sometimes the sheer madness of a company betting everything on a single idea. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these phantom Mustangs blew your mind the most? Can you imagine a world of V12 powered or gull-wing door Mustangs? Let me know in the comments below. Sharing your thoughts and your own Mustang stories is what makes this community so special. And hey, if you enjoyed this deep dive into Ford's secret history, do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. It helps us continue to bring these incredible stories to light. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.